Hola, ¿qué tal mis amigos de Español 3? Aquí estamos. Espero que hayas tenido una buena vacación y vamos a comenzar con clase otra vez. Entonces, si no lo has hecho, favor de cumplir Warm-up 4/21, Present Perfect and Pluperfect. Hay tres preguntas ahí. Para cumplirlo, tienes que recordar o tienes que saber usar el presente perfecto y el pluscuamperfecto. So if you don't remember any of that, let's do a little quick review. The present perfect requires that you use, as the book puts it, our little auxiliary verb, which is haber, which means to have, but not like to possess with tener. It's just to have, like the helper verb for past participles. So for the present perfect, your first two questions, remember, haber is conjugated like this: he, has, ha, hemos, han. This is the thing that changes depending on who is doing the doing of the thing, or who is doing the have done-ness of the thing. Um, After you get that haber conjugated, you then need to throw in a past participle, which, if it's one of the regulars, all of the ARs end in an auto, and all the ERs end in an ito. So comer becomes comido, hablar becomes hablado, bailar becomes bailado, salir becomes salido. There is, there are obviously some exceptions to the rule, which is where we get our friendly acronym, my very, very precious cheddar: muerto, visto, vuelto, puesto, cubierto, hecho, escrito, dicho, descubierto, abierto, rojo. All of these, I believe, are included here. The one that's not on that list is frito, which comes from to fry, but I didn't want to say my very, very precious cheddar. So that's fine if you don't know frito. So that's that. So you should have everything that you need to complete warm-up 4/21. Is that really loud in the background? If it is, send me an email and I can modify the way that I do these. Cool. After you do that initial warm-up, you are going to watch this screencast, which you are right now if you're watching this. So good job. You're doing the right thing. You might also notice that in the lesson plans, I've started to hyperlink all of the assignments. I'll try to do this as often as I can, so that way you don't have to go hunting. You should be able to just click the link and it'll take you to the assignment. No promises that Canvas will cooperate. Cool. So up next, we are going to review really quickly the pluscuamperfecto, which uses the same, I guess, the same logic as the present perfect. However, instead of saying that I have eaten, or I have danced, or I have gone out, you're saying I had eaten, I had danced, I had gone out. So it's had instead of have. And we drew a little timeline last time we were together. So the present perfect is the present. Whoa, that was weird. Oh, it's just catching up. That's funny. Okay, so the present perfect is any time before the current moment has that thing happened. So, like, if you asked, have you danced? You're basically asking, in general, any time before now has dancing occurred in your life. Or have you eaten? It's any time before now. Whereas with the pluperfect, it's in reference to a past event of some sort. Before coming to UCA, had you gone to another school? Before you ate breakfast, had you already drank your coffee? So there's a past event of some sort, and you're going to be talking in reference to something that had happened before that past event, if that makes sense. This is why haber, when we use the pluperfect, haber is conjugated in the imperfect tense. So haber, being an ER verb, gets the endings ia, ias, ia, iamos, ian, just like any other imperfect ER or IR verb. So that's the pluscuamperfecto. And then what's nice is you don't have to learn anything new with the participles. Those all just stay the same. My very, very precious cheddar, ito or auto, or frito. Cool. So that's the pluscuamperfecto. What I'm going to have you guys do today is, I know that sometimes when we introduce new concepts, we don't get a ton of practice in because it's mostly like taking notes or And in class, there's a lot of opportunities to just like verbally discuss with each other. And so today, I'm just going to have you practicing doing a lot of practice activities until this sticks in your brain. And so we are going to use our books today. So pages, the next assignment, which is called Homework Classwork Pluscuamperfecto Practicas 4/21, you can either complete this in the Canvas text box thing, or you can write it on a piece of paper, or you could do it on Notability, whichever you prefer. But I'm going to have you do Practica A, B, C, and D. But don't, before you freak out, I'm not going to have you do all of them. I'm just going to have you do 2 from each of those activities. And then, after you do that, I want you to answer these questions that I have for you. ¿Habías estudiado el latín antes de estudiar el español? ¿Habías hecho un viaje en carro antes de hacer un viaje en tren? ¿Habías tomado un curso de álgebra antes de tomar un curso de geometría? And ¿qué habías hecho antes de venir a UCA? So you're going to do the book work, and then you are going to answer these 4 questions. And then all of that can either be done on Canvas, or you do it on paper, take a photo, and submit it to Canvas. So let's take a look at those activities. Practica A on page 230. All it does is it gives you an infinitive verb. So let's look at the example here. Terminar. And then it gives you a formula to follow. Cuando yo salí, ellos ya... And here we got ellos ya habían terminado. So when I went out, or when I left, they already had finished. So what you are going to do is you're going to follow this model. I know it sounds redundant, but you're just going to follow the model and say, when I left, they had already whatevered. So you can do, when I left, they had already sang. When I left, they already danced. When I left, they had already seen the spectacle. So that's your, the reason we're practicing these over and over is because you're going to notice that these tend to be the formulas in which the pluperfect occurs. That using cuando or antes, there's some sort of reference point. So cuando yo salí, ellos ya, meaning already. When I left, they had already done this thing. Got it? So just choose 2 of these. 2 of these activities, or 2 of the questions on A. And then you'll do 2 of the questions on B, which also is pretty straightforward. It's just a weird unconjugated question, escribirlo, pero ya lo habían escrito. We're saying they have already done this thing. So it's like a weird question, like write it, but they had already written it. Return it, but they had already returned it. So you are just going to take that question. So they already did number 1 for you, so you get to see what that looks like. But choose one of these other ones, and then recognize the verb, and then convert it into pluperfect. So abrirlo, ya lo habían escrito. So this is what you're doing for B. Choose 2 of those. You get that done. Activity C. Formen oraciones según el modelo. Ellos salieron antes, yo salí después. So if they left before and I left after, then the way that you're going to do this is ellos ya habían salido cuando yo salí. So what had already happened when the next thing happened? So ellos ya habían salido. They had already left when I left. So let's do another example of these, because this one's a little bit less straightforward. Ellos llegaron antes, yo llegué después. So for number 1, the zoom function, am I right? Ellos llegaron antes. So they had already arrived. Oh my gosh, that font size is too large. Here we go. Ellos ya habían llegado. Because that happened first, right? Ellos ya habían llegado cuando... Oof, that's not enough room. Cuando yo llegué. So they had already arrived when I. Oh, wait, they had already arrived when I arrived. So you're saying this other thing had happened before the other thing. So pick two of these and make sure that those two things get done. And then last, historieta D is the most straightforward of these things. All I need you to do here is pick two of these and write out the sentence with the right thing in the blank. Cool? All right. You can't answer me back, so go do that thing. Lastly, the last new concept that we are going to explore, we're not going to get into conditional perfect yet, so don't worry, is you're going to make a left-hand turn in your book after you complete that activity and go over to page 220, and we are going to cover Sino versus Pero. Sino y Pero both mean but. Oh yeah, sorry, I should pause. Pause so that you can do that homework assignment. This is me waiting for you to pause this video. Okay, cool. On page 220, Sino and Pero, this is a different vein, but this is just like, it's one of those things that it's just literally learning one word, but if you don't know this word and it's used, then you'll be confused in conversations because Sino looks a lot like seen, but it doesn't mean seen at all. Sino is like Pero. Both of them mean but. Both of these mean but. However, pero is but in the traditional sense, and sino only means but in some senses. And so, if we define sino, then you'll know that every other occurrence in English where you would say but is pero. But that would be a pero. There are some circumstances where you would use sino instead. Sino doesn't necessarily mean just but. In English, I feel like we would normally say but rather. Like when people talk about how cute my dog Jim is because he's this like little basset hound that with those long ears and that droopy face, I would respond to them and say, he is not that cute, but rather he's quite annoying. It's when you want to say but and then like contrast whatever comes after it from the beginning. So let's just read what the book says. Sino means but in the sense of rather or on the contrary. It's used after a negative statement to contradict the negative statement. Él no es rico, sino pobre. José no es rubio, sino moreno. So he's not rich, but rather he's poor. He's not blonde, but rather he's brunette. Number two, pero is used for but in all other cases. Like that part of the rule is really easy. It's just if it's not sino, it's pero. So just to make sure that you get a chance to practice and use this, I want you to write 3 quick sentences using sino. You'll notice there'll be a negative statement, sino, the opposite. Kind of like we had in those examples on page 220. Write a sentence about yourself using sino. So like, I'm not short, but rather tall. I'm not boring, but rather fun. And so write a sentence about yourself, a sentence about your hero, and a sentence about your favorite animal. And then last, we'll have a Zoom meeting at 2:30. So if you're not done with all these assignments yet, that's totally fine. But I want to check in and check for understanding. So at 2:30, we'll hop into the Zoom classroom. The password is 123456 because Zoom requires me to use passwords now. And then at the end of class, your exit ticket will be a choose your own adventure in applying the things we just learned. So adventure A is use the present perfect in sentence 1 and sino in sentence 2. So write 2 sentences that connect to each other. So you can't just write 2 random sentences, but 2 sentences that relate with each other. So one with present perfect in sentence 1 and sino in sentence 2. One with the pluperfect in sentence 1 and the present perfect in sentence 2. One with sino in sentence 1 and the pluperfect in sentence 2. So I'm going to have you apply these skills that you've used thus far, but you have to follow a formula and be creative to problem solve. So that's what you're going to do for your exit ticket. I'll see you guys in our Zoom meeting at 2:30, and I hope this all makes sense. If not, we'll square that away when we get together as a class. Adios, amigos.